O Father of Under-Earth, O He who sits atop a million virgins sacrificed, my plead comes to Thee in this darkest hour, for I need to eradicate my enemy, be my adversary in my time of need. Please tell me, what will you do?
You kill all the furries.
The Furry Fandom. Hello fellows, it's Afreemanornot, and I'm back in my seat to talk about another topic, and today it is about, of course, the Furry Fandom. This entire video is dedicated to me talking about the fandom, telling you about my personal thoughts and theories about it, whilst also just trying to get off some steam, really, because the fandom to me is a big oddity, and I really want to get that off my chest. But before I promptly do so, I also want to note out that, well, there's quite a fair bit of jokes in this one, so don't worry. There'll be all manners of...
You'll make sure to press J in the comments.
Wait until the intro's done, at least. Yes, there will be those kinds of jokes in the video, and if you're a furry, I really stress you to watch through the entire video. The reason to why is because it's gonna make a fair bit of sense, and let me tell you why. I'm aiming to make 3 videos on this. One that is going to be about my thoughts and feelings and also getting the jokes out there, because I really want to do that too, which is this video. And the 2 others are going to be interviews, where I would like to interview one furry that has looked at this video, that agrees with what I've said, and, well, might have some thoughts of their own and want to share with their own opinions and simply come online. And if you are not, however, agreeing with what I said, and you deeply just want to get me to change my opinion, or if you think that I'm just wrong, you're also free to come on. I want one of each, and as such, you can contact me in the contact details below, and I can get you on this channel. And do note this. If you want to be anonymous throughout the entire video, that's fine by me. But enough with the worries, and let's burn some furries. Goofy, would you do the honors?
Oh, gladly. That's why I brought the flamethrower. Burn!
Well, you might just want to dismiss me already as,
you're just a hater. You just don't like the fandom because it's something new and different. Why should I listen to you to begin with? You probably don't even like anthropomorphism.
If you come onto my channel, I would entirely see you make that kind of statement, considering the kinds of videos that I've made in the past. But this is also why I'm making it, to kind of clarify. Because the thing is, I can understand why the fandom came up to begin with, considering the absolute history that humanity has with anthropomorphism. Let me tell you of it real quick. Humanity has been extraordinarily creative when it comes to the creation of gods, myths, and legends throughout the world that involve animal-human-like hybrids. In early Egypt, for example, you had gods like Set, Anubis, and Ra. These are only some of the gods of Egypt, and they were quite the thing back then. And then you can look at things like, for example, in Greece, that had its various creatures like minotaurs, gorgons, sirens, all manners of creatures that existed at that time in myths and legends of their own making. If you want to go to the east, you have, for example, Japan with its kappa, which is essentially frog creatures that kidnap children. If you want to go to the west, you had the Wendigo. And if you want to be more modern, you had things like the Yeti, the Bigfoot, Mothman, reptilians, and all manners of myths, legends, and gods that humanity has created with its inspiration. And humanity has been its own inspiration in some points. I mean, that's why we have anthropomorphism, after all. A mixture of human and animal in one. There's a lot of history here to draw upon. There's a lot of magical things that we have in human history, tales, folklore, and all manners of things that we can explore and learn more of that we have created utilizing anthropomorphism. And as such, I can definitely see a fandom being formed around this. There's just one problem. The furry fandom reveres fucking none of this. And this just really baffles me because there's so much history to go into. This could be a topic of great discussion and could be very interesting to look further into our own history, something that is even educational. But no, instead it is discarded for sexual fetishes and degeneracy alongside with fucking hugs, kisses and cuddles all the fucking time. Something so interesting, deep, rich, something real is getting exchanged for cartoons. And porn. Lots of it. It feels like the furry fandom just discards this rich history because what it doesn't realize is that it already is a part of a legacy. Believe it or not, but when it comes to anthropomorphism, the whole furry fandom is gonna leave its mark, a dirty fucking stain, but it's still gonna be left there for the entirety of human history. Because the thing is that anthropomorphism had been with us for such a long time, and it's continuously being added upon, you know? Because human inspiration will not cease to exist. All that which is around us inspires us, and we bring that into our daily lives and what we do and what we create. And as such, we birth all manners of things from it. The furry fandom is no exception, regardless of how vile and obscene it may seem. And in this modern day age, when we can tell stories from ancient Egypt and whatnot, far better than we have ever been able to ever, it doesn't seem like they take any sort of inspiration in this, which is very strange. It might just be that the modern day matter is to be stressed all the time and that is just becoming the norm, people don't care anymore. Or there is another alternative. It might also be the rebirth of the furry empire. History. In the 1500s, Spain launched a campaign against the Aztec Empire in South America in an attempt to conquer its lands. In the Aztec Empire, you could of course be a warrior, but you could be more than just a warrior. You could be the warrior of a certain aspect, like a warrior of the eagle or a warrior of the jaguar. And as such, you would be marked by special paint. But not only this, but you were also given a suit that was tailored to look like the creature that you were supposed to be an aspect of. And so in the Aztec Empire came the birth of the first ever furries to have cursed the world. The Spanish knew that they could not allow such grievous taint to exist on God's green earth, and as such they wanted them eradicated, but did not dare to touch them because they were afraid of catching their sinful ways themselves. But Hernan Cortés had an ace up his sleeve. If they wanted to infect his men with the furry plague, he would create one of his very own. And with the simple application of the Spanish peasant, smallpox had spread through the empire. But smallpox was just a code word. Cortés was a hell of a lot smarter than that. He had brought gay men to the island, and he threw them in with a lot of slaves that he traded to the Aztec Empire as a peace gift, and then watched the entire nation crumble. Smallpox was a code word for mini-AIDS. Why did I do this?
All the furries are sizzling so nicely down there.
I hope the last segment made some sense in declaring my position somewhat on the history of anthropomorphism, and how I think it is strange that the furry fandom in and of itself does not seem to revere that as much as I would have imagined it to. And in this segment, I have decided that I'm going to talk a little bit about the furries and the fandom and how they are connected loosely, but also very shattered. This is from personal experience, so do note that out. From personal experience, by observing primarily, it seems as if though the fandom is very much so split, but on the same time still unified in a minor sense, and let me explain what I mean with that. For starters, I know furries. I personally know a few furries in real life that do not really enact upon their character a fuck ton. They do have characters of their own creation and whatnot, but they usually just keep that to themselves, and they don't do any roleplay, they don't do any of the furry lingo, they don't do any of that kind of shit, they just enjoy the art and they have found friends within the fandom, but they consider themselves to be detached from the fandom. Essentially, they don't want to be associated with it, which is very interesting. And when I've talked to these people about it, it's because of the sheer fact that they consider it to be cringy. There are aspects of it that are very much so cringy in their eyes, and as such, they don't want to be associated with the fandom as a whole. I've also met the people that have gone full out, essentially the kind of people that have bought a fursuit and act upon their character every opportunity they get. Essentially the kind of people that are insufferably just role-playing and doing asterisks in chat and doing the ooh and ooh all the fucking time, doing the stereotypical furry lingo every opportunity they get. It's very split. It's a mixture of people that have a head on their shoulders and the kind of people that you would expect to be locked up in an insane asylum. I thoroughly believe and stand by the belief that the furry fandom is split. You could say that it's split into essentially more than two groups, and I would say that it's split perhaps between 3 or 4, just numerous fucking groups. I personally do it by saying that you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good are the ones that doesn't roleplay overly much, they can act cordial and normal, they keep to themselves, and they know how to handle situations. They're just people with heads on their shoulders, essentially. Then you have the bad part of the fandom, which are the ones that roleplay and enact whenever they can, try to convert people that just doesn't want to, and they just distance themselves from everything, becoming very antisocial and just roleplay whenever they get a chance. Essentially the dark end of the fandom. And then you have the ugly part of the fandom. The ugly part of the fandom that not even the bad part of the fandom might necessarily enjoy overly much, and amongst them are Otherkin. Now there might be those out there that says that the Otherkin community is completely different from furries. But as some of you know, I have had the unfortunate accident of meeting some of the Otherkin, and in all due honesty, they have said that they are a part of the furry fandom. They consider themselves furries with an extension, essentially. And that's what I'm going to stick with. And then I've met the furries that says that no, they are not a part of the fandom, they are doing their own fucking thing, we don't like them at all, they are not a part of us, we distance ourselves from that entirely. And then you have those furries that say they're a part of the fandom, they should be respected, should be accepted, but they themselves are not otherkin. And then there are parts of the fandom that say that they are not otherkin, but they believe that their character that they have made is real and that they are essentially the character once they embody the suit or something like that. As you can tell, this is quite the bag of batshit that we've got here, and you might just say to yourself that, well, look at the fandom in its entirety. Like, most people are fairly corpus mente and does not wishes to be non-human. You know, most people think and want to be human.
You serious?
In 2011, the Anthropomorphic Research Project launched a survey called the International Online Furry Survey. This took place in the winter of that year, and it held some interesting answers. In the survey, there was 4,338 furries and 485 non-furries. The non-furries was a bit of an oddity to me, as I was not entirely sure what that meant. If that meant that these were simply not furries, these were simply just bystanders or just regular people. But it appears, as far as I've been able to tell, that these are simply those that consider themselves less so furry, but still a part of the fandom in a shape or form. A lot of questions was asked, and they will be linked in the description below for you to check out for yourself. However, I have taken liberties in just checking out a few interesting pieces of information here for this video. In the survey, the people within these groups would fall under different types: Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, and Type 4. Type 1 was completely human and does not wish to be non-human. Type 2 was completely human but wishes to be non-human. Type 3 does not feel completely human but does not wish to be non-human. Type 4 does not feel completely human but wishes to be non-human. The results are quite interesting. When it came to Type 1, 64.8% of non-furries consider themselves to be Type 1. But when it came to the furry side, only 41.7% consider themselves completely human and did not wish to be nothing but human. However, that means that there's a 58.3% that goes in Type 2, 3, and 4 respectively, where 33.4% of furries consider themselves completely human but wish to be non-human. In Type 3, 5.7% of furries did not feel completely human, but did not wish to be a non-human, whilst 19.2% of the furries was Part 4, did not feel completely human, and wished to be non-human. call me a cunt, but the statistics speaks for themselves. Out of all these furries, a majority consider themselves to be not completely human and wish to be something else. It is a rather big shock factor to me, anyways. Now, it might just be me looking kind of wrongly at this, because I'm given 2 statistics here. Everyone that doesn't go into type 1 go into type 2, 3, and 4. And I just added the numbers together, and that became 100%. But when I added the other numbers that you can see up there, 52.6% plus 47.4%, that also became 100. But that's also where it becomes a little bit strange, because I do not therefore know entirely what applies. What I can say for sure, though, is that more than half of the furries in this survey consider themselves to be non-human or wish they were non-human. Which, to me, is kind of strange. I mean, here's the thing. I'm an outsider looking in, and I don't entirely get why it is that people of this fandom feel so detached from themselves that they no longer even want to be human. I understand entirely that you have a desire to be someone else if you're in a precarious situation, because what I've understood is that the furry fandom is used as a kind of relief. It's a way to kind of escape, a sort of escapism, and the survey does bring that up, that there's a fair bit of people in here that does utilize it as a sort of escapism. And I can entirely understand people having a sort of necessity to escape their daily lives and, just be someone else or somewhere else. That is entirely understandable in my eyes. What is not understandable is that you wish to be non-human entirely. That is what strikes me as odd. I cannot understand that for the life of me, and I am trying to look into it as to why, but perhaps it is something that I'm overlooking. And that leads me to my second point: escapism. I can entirely see the necessity for people to kind of get out of their daily lives and do something a little bit different, to kind of spice things up, or for them to just flee for but a moment, to be somewhere else, or be in someone else's shoes for a moment. In Dungeons & Dragons, for example, you roleplay a different character in order for yourself to get out of your daily life, in order to become someone different, a hero, a villain, something interesting that you've never even seen the like of before. Again, it makes then sense that people want to use that as a kind of outlet, as an escape. And then you come probably with the question, but Freeman, why the fuck are you overlooking then the sheer fact that people want to use this as an outlet to be someone else for but a moment? Here is why. A D&D player can realize who he is, where he is, and what he's doing. But this survey makes me think otherwise about furries. Let me explain as to what I'm thinking here, so you don't get riled up in anger immediately if it comes to the conclusion that you are. So, when it comes to D&D, you play a different character, you are someone else in an entirely different world, and you are entirely aware that you are that as a person. You utilize your imagination, and you have fun with your friends, interacting as someone else towards someone else, in a fashion that you normally wouldn't, and you make it into an interesting experience. And that's the thing. That's exactly what it is, a sort of escapism. But every escapism, every kind of escape, is just temporary. You eventually will get back, okay? When the D&D player is finished playing his session, he goes back to his daily life. And what does he do? He lives that daily life as normally. The thing is that when it comes to D&D players, they can therefore perhaps draw some inspiration of the character they have created, given it lore, given it depth, given it creation, and draw upon the creation and inspiration that they have on themselves to empower themselves in their daily life. The escapism has provided them with a key to a solution in their daily life. Then why do I not look upon the furry fandom in the same vein? The reason to why is because they seem to want to have an eternal escape, whilst the D&D player perhaps want a temporary escape. A D&D player is a part of a game. He's a part of something that can be expanded upon, that has a fundamental basis upon which he can build whatever he desires. And as such, he can do that, but he always goes back to the core roots that chains him to the ground, which, in this sense, is a good thing. The furry fandom, however, does not. The furry fandom is detached. It doesn't have any form of founding roots in the sense that they do not attach themselves to anything specific. They are just free-going, and they are not really doing anything with the fandom that they so cling to. They don't have a game surrounding it, they don't have any lore surrounding it, they don't have any special characters or special universe from which they all hail. They're all separated. There's no form of unification in that field, and that is why I've said repeatedly it's so hard for me to judge everyone rather than judging people based upon their situations. But that is also why I'm judging the fandom in and of itself, because the fandom is not technically one thing, it is a multitude of things. But the problem is the sheer fact that I don't see people drawing inspiration upon them to their daily lives to be multidisciplinary like that. More along the lines, it seems like an escape forever. As if though they've wanted to always kind of get out of their daily lives and live their lives as a fox in the forest. That's the kind of idea that I get in my head when I'm trying to think this. The furry fandom came from a source of being neglected. They were, originally speaking, not considered to be a part of the regular mold, and as such they created their own thing. The problem is the sheer fact that there's no structure in said thing, there's no backbone in said thing, there's nothing to fall back on, no organization, no form of central committee in the same sense as you'd have, for example, with D&D. And D&D is technically not the only thing that you can give examples to of sort of established fandoms. You have Battle Mech, for example. You have the Cthulhu mythos. You have Warhammer 40k. You see, all of these have a sort of sense of belonging. They are established franchises. The furry fandom isn't established. It is too loose to be taken as a whole. There's no way to kind of deal with it, so to say. Not ridding yourself of it, but understanding it. And as such, it is very bloody difficult to take it seriously. And I have such a hard time to try and be gentle about it, because the fandom genuinely just rubs me the wrong way in every way. And out of all things that I've said right now, out of all the opinions that I've shared, and all the facts and all shit that I've gone down with in this video, there's one thing that is very important for you to understand, and that is, I do not want to come off as toxic. See, I don't want you to sit there with tears in your throat and be like, wow, you must fucking hate us for everything that we are, for everything we've built up, or everything that is currently. You must fucking detest us for what we have become. You must despise us to the point where you don't even want to put a hand on our shoulder if this entire thing was to fall. You would be nothing but happy to see us go down, and you would help it if you got the opportunity. You hate us that badly, don't you? No, that is wrong. To quote a man from a special book series, fear of the unknown is the mark of the ignorant. Hate can stem from fear. Not being able to understand or not wanting to understand a certain thing, because of the sheer fact that you fear that that which you don't understand is going to overtake something that you know, or grow into something you don't want to see it become. Fear can be quenched with knowledge. If you understand something about the thing you fear, or if you understand that which you fear, you do not need to fear it any longer. You know what it is, you know what's capable of, and you know perhaps how to set a stop to it, or if there's something that you even need to set a stop of, or even if it's something that you can stop. Knowing and understanding things can be the basis of you simply not despising something. And that is the standpoint I'm taking in all of this, because what I've said and what I've shared with you has not been pure emotion. It has been also facts and stuff that has backed me, you know? And as such, that's the experience I've gotten out of this. But I'm willing to give a chance to kind of get out of this bad experience by having people proving me otherwise. Or you might prove me just right. We will see. Thank you all so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing and sharing the video around, as it helps me a lot. And other than that, I hope that my next 2 videos are going to be the interviews. And for those that expected this to not be as serious as it became, well, sorry. But here, I'll try and make it up for you. Goofy, do what you do best.
You kill all the furries.